everyone, and welcome to the Plumas Unified School District Young Alumni Roundtable, where we're going to be talking tonight with 3 graduates from schools throughout Plumas Unified who have found careers in STEM fields. I'm Susan Frediani. I am an instructional coach and project coordinator for the district, and I'm really excited to have the 3 of you here with me tonight. So I'm going to be asking you each to just introduce yourselves and to share 2 or 3 perks to what your career is, what you do. So Andrew, I'm going to go ahead and start with you.
Yeah, well, thanks for having us. So my name is Andrew Murphy, born and raised here in Quincy in Plumas County. I graduated from Quincy High School in 2010. During that time, I kind of moved away for a little bit, became a registered nurse, and have in the past couple of years moved back to this gorgeous area. And I currently work for CareFlight doing critical care transport as a registered nurse. So I can work on the ambulance, the fixed wing or airplane, the rotor wing, helicopter. And I also work in the emergency department here at Plumas District Hospital. Some of the top career perks of this field is that, unfortunately, but also fortunately, there's a shortage of nursing, which means that it's rather easy to find a job just about anywhere. There's a lot of diversity and flexibility within the field, which makes it nice. And there's also a really good work-life balance, I would say. A lot of hospital nurses generally work 3 days a week. I currently work 2 24-hour shifts a week, so that leaves me plenty of time for the life part of the work-life balance.
So you get time to do what you want to do outside of work. It sounds like you get quite a bit.
Correct, which I think is super important to be able to find that balance. So,
And those 2 24-hour shifts, that makes you full-time then, right?
yeah, that's technically working overtime because I'm working 48 hours a week, which it can be very busy during that time. But it's only twice a week, so I feel like it's worth it.
Okay. Thank you, Andrew. So Rachel, could you just introduce yourself to us and share a little bit about what you do and the perks?
Sure, thanks for having me. So I'm Rachel, and I graduated from Quincy High School in 2016, and I got my BS in computer science from UC Davis in 2020. And so I am a software engineer. I specifically work on web app development for hospitals in like healthcare and pharmacies and all that. So it's just programming work. And I'd say some of the big perks of the job are that it's very flexible. You can work in any city, you can work from home remotely, not just in COVID. And you can really work for any company too. A lot of companies nowadays have people with computer science degrees working for them as well. And then the other thing I would say is it's great because you only have to get a bachelor's degree. You can always go back and get more schooling later, but you can start out and get a really good job right away after just 4 years of college. And that's pretty great.
Thanks, Rachel. Ian?
Hi, Ian Mahaffey. Thanks for having me, of course. I'm a civil engineer and I work in land development more specifically. I do some water resources stuff, which land development is we have a parcel of land and we decide how, let's say, a subdivision needs to go on it, and we decide how the utilities need to be laid out with water, sewer, storm drain, gas, electric, cable, and we decide how many houses can be on the property. We make sure that it's following all the codes, and we do some commercial lots as well. My firm more specifically does subdivisions more often. But then the water resources side, we do a lot of hydrology, hydraulics, and a little bit of pumps and some more environmental, which is a little bit more chemistry. But we focus more on the hydrology and the hydraulics. And hydrology is the study of how surface runoff flows and creates floods and such. And hydraulics is more of the flow of fluids, so we can decide how deep a river is going to be in a certain storm event and what is going to be flooding and what is not. A couple perks. It is a somewhat relative schedule. As long as we get our work done, then that's really all that is, all that matters. So if you need to take off early or come in late or something, it's never really a big deal. It's not like construction where you have to be there on time, and if you're not, you're going to get booted. Our work is very tangible. We start from drafting plans very, very early on with just a parcel of land all the way to construction plans, and then they go out there and build it in the field, and then you have a big 300 lot subdivision that is all built within a year. And then my favorite perk about it is just working in the construction field. Really, civil engineering is in the construction world. There's so many moving parts. You're dealing with so many different types of people, all the way from the grunts in the field, all the way to the scientists, and you're dealing with reviewers, and there's just so many things going on. It's a lot of problem solving, and there's just a lot going on.
So you're outside a lot too, right? I mean, you're not just in an office, but you're also outside.
Yeah, I wouldn't say a lot, but we do often have to have times go out to job sites and deal with problems that are arising in the field.
Okay, and Ian, you're Chester High School, right?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that we said that. Okay, great. So I'm going to go ahead and ask you all another question. So you might need to think about this one for a second. As a high school student, what did you know about the STEM career that you're involved with today? So if you can kind of think back to that time in high school, what did you know about what you're doing now? Rachel, I'm going to start with you.
So I knew next to nothing. I didn't even know what programming was. I really only heard that it was a good career to go into. And at the time, Quincy High School didn't have any computer science classes. So I really had no programming experience at all. And I wasn't even very good with tech or computers. I didn't consider myself to be have those skills either. So very little at all.
So you must, excuse me, you must have found something when you were at college that got you motivated to pursue this.
I had heard from like friends that it was a good career to go into towards the end of high school, but I had already applied to college with a bunch of ag degrees, actually, to all the schools that I had applied to. So I had to switch majors once I determined this was a good path for me.
Okay. Ian, how about you?
I had been told that engineering would be kind of a good field. I know I was told it was math and science heavy, which is kind of implied. But I also worked in construction throughout high school and college, but mostly just small time, building houses with a small time contractor, which is not really the same as moving 100,000 yards of dirt with D9 tractors or anything. But I didn't really know that much. I started out as a environmental engineer because I wanted to help the environment, but no one really tells you what an environmental engineer is until you're 3 years down the line. And that just means you're designing treatment, like water treatment plants. Mm-hmm. So, and it's really chemistry heavy, and I'm not that fond of chemistry, so I decided to go down the civil path instead.
Okay.
But as far as high school, it was mostly just very, very broad. I knew that it was science and math heavy.
Okay, thank you. Andrew, how about you?
I would agree with these two. The same with the field that I'm in is as a high school student, I didn't really know that much about nursing overall. Obviously, you know that there are nurses, but don't really know the scope of what they do, or I didn't at least. and often I would say like in movies and TV shows, uh, things are not portrayed the same as reality, which goes along with probably just about anything. But you'll see like doctors starting the IVs or giving medication or shocking the irregularly beating heart. And not to say that they're not involved, but the hands-on of that is often what the nurses are doing. And I guess I never really thought about it or realized it. So yeah, I learned that later on.
Okay, thank you. So this next question I want to ask is really what was your path to getting to where you are now? All right. And I know some of you have touched on just pieces of that, but I'd sort of like more specifics. Did you hop into school right after you graduated, from high school? Did you do anything else in between? What hooked you into this career? Just kind of what was the path? All right. So Ian, let me go ahead and start with you on this one.
Yeah, so like I said, I kind of wanted to go into the engineering world, but I didn't really know anything about it. I decided to go to the University of Montana initially because there was no engineering degree there, and it was going to force me to go to 2 different schools, which I ended up spending a year there and then came back to University in Nevada, Reno, and then started the engineering world there. And once I started taking engineering classes and learning a little bit more about the environmental engineering, it's very chemistry heavy, and you're designing water treatment plants, sewage treatment plants, and there's nothing really that you're helping the environment with. It's just you're dealing with the repercussions of land development. And so then once I switched to civil, everything kind of just fell in from there, and I've just been here since.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Rachel.
So as I said before, I had already applied to college with ag majors, but towards the end when I was making my decision about what school to go to, I already knew I was probably going to switch into computer science. So I just made sure that I picked a school where it was easy to switch majors, which you could do by just calling up the school and talking to them. And then I took a couple intro to computer science classes and made sure it was something that I actually liked, and then switched my major. And then towards the end of college, I had a few part-time jobs in web development because those were the classes that I really enjoyed in computer science. And that determined for me that it was a good career to go into. And that's what I'm doing now as well.
So the classes that we're offering now at some of our high schools are computer science principles. And then we're looking at adding computer science A and some other things even for younger students as well. So
that's wonderful.
We would have done a better job, Rachel, if you were here now. But
we're that'll be so useful.
Yeah, we are catching up. Okay, Andrew.
Yeah, so in high school, I was extremely science and math focused. That was the subjects I enjoyed the most. And medicine was something that kind of always interested me. So I ended up taking an EMT class from Feather River Community College while I was in high school, although I never actually got certified in it, which I would later regret. So from there, I just went straight from high school into pre-med, which is not necessarily its own degree, but you can pick a science degree and get all the prerequisites done. And I did that up at the University of Idaho. During that time, I volunteered in the emergency department there because for medical school applications, you definitely want some sort of hands-on experience. And it was during that time that the nurses there really took me under their wing, and it was that experience that showed me kind of what nurses really do. So at that point, I kind of changed my paths, and luckily they lined up really well. And I had all the prereqs for nursing school. So I applied at California State University, Chico, and got into the nursing program there. And that's where I got my bachelor's of science in nursing.
Okay. So you started it at FRC and then Idaho and then finished at Chico, right?
Well, yes. I've been going to FRC for many years at this point. It was during high school that I took community college classes.
Okay.
So I never actually went full time at FRC, but just kind of took advantage of the opportunity of having a community college in the town that we live, and took some classes while I was taking high school classes as well.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Got it. Okay. So my next question is thinking broadly here, maybe not just specifically about what you do on a day-to-day basis, but kind of more in a broad sense. To what extent did high school prepare you for your career, for what your path was and where you landed? Okay. So Andrew, I'm going to ask you that.
Yeah, and I'll definitely go broad here. So I feel like I learned some lessons that are valuable in my field, but also just valuable in general. It really taught me the value of like diversity and building relationships. These are important in my career, like I said, but also just in life in general. Through my various extracurricular activities, I was able to make a wide range of friends, not just in one clique or anything like that. I learned the importance of these relationships and the importance of being able to build them. High school also taught me hard work, time management, and critical thinking. I was a very busy high school student, and so these things were really important and taught me how to do them.
Okay, thank you. Ian.
I agree with Andrew completely. I think all of the important lessons that you learn, not all of them, but a lot of the important lessons you learn from high school are applied to more of a broad, just how to live life and how to go about life. The struggle that you go through on a hard class, you know, if you're having a really hard math test that you're studying for, and it's really hard, the struggle is more important for you to be able to learn how to problem solve in the future and to be able to work hard. And then and another really big one is teamwork. I don't know how much high schoolers have to do group projects, but in college you have to do group projects a lot, and sometimes they can be very frustrating. But when you get into your career, everything is a group project all the time. You're collaborating with everyone. I mean, and there's always the person that's not working as hard as everyone else, but you just have to learn how to, I mean, it's so important to learn how to handle those kind of things early on. I had something else. I have the word struggle written down a lot. I honestly think like just having to struggle a lot is the most important thing, because it'll help you down the line.
Yeah, I think that's such a wise thing to say. I would always just tell my own kids, you know, it's like the successes feel great, they feel wonderful for like a really short amount of time, but you know, the setbacks are what you stay with you and where you learn. And so I really appreciate you hearing you say that. So Rachel, what do you think?
I completely agree with Ian and Andrew. And I think for me, some of the really big lessons that have been really useful is time management for sure. Especially now during COVID, like I'm working from home. I've never actually met my coworkers in person because I've been working from home this whole time. And so you really have to be on it by yourself. And then I think communication is a huge one. As Ian said, you know, it's all group projects from here. And then lastly, especially for computer science, just learning to be a lifelong learner. And because you will always have to learn new things, especially in my field. And so you better get used to that in high school, you know.
I often think that life would be really boring if there weren't constantly new things, right, to learn.
Very
So
true.
if you just had to settle back for the next 50 years, it would be so dull.
Right.
Okay, so my next question, I'm so interested in these careers that you're in, and I know that some people might look at these careers as kind of stereotypical careers, and that I'm wondering what you would say to students who might not consider these careers that you're involved with because of gender stereotypes. So if you could maybe think about that for a moment and I'd like to hear your thoughts on that. Andrew?
Yeah, we live in a pretty interesting, pretty cool time in a lot of ways. So one of the big things is, especially in the field of nursing, is it's generally been considered a female career. But being a male in the field has not really been an issue for me at all. Um, Although nursing still largely is female, there's an all-time high of males within the field. I think it's something like 12% of the workforce now is someone that identifies as male versus like 3% that was in the 70s. So yeah, that's a big change, and there has been and continues to be a transition away from traditional gender stereotypes within the field. So pretty cool thing. There's really a place for anyone in the field that wants to put in the time, energy, and effort to do so.
Thank you. Rachel?
So computer science has overall been a male-dominated career for quite a while, but as Andrew said, like things are changing, and I would just say don't let that stop you. If you're a woman and you're interested in this, you will have unique challenges as you pursue a career in computer science, but there are lots of resources for women going into the field. For anyone that doesn't identify as male, there are clubs you can join, there are mentors that can help you, and never let that stop you from pursuing computer science.
Good to know. Ian?
Yeah, same thing. Every year, I think the school has more and more non-male applicants and students, and I'm I don't even know if I would consider my field, well, for probably 30s and younger, I would say it's probably pretty equal right now. Definitely 30s up is definitely male dominated, but there's no reason to hesitate going into into my fields for any reason, really.
Even for people who don't see themselves as strong in math and science?
Even more. I was going to emphasize that later on, but I want everybody to know that anybody can do this job if you want to be there. You don't need to be strong in math and science. Once you get into the real world, it's totally different. There's a lot of theoretical stuff going through school, but once you're in the real world, it's mostly communicating and being able to work hard and just learn the stuff that you have that your actual firm or wherever you're working is teaching you.
Okay. All right. So in high school, and I think in college as well, much of what you do is evaluated with a grade, right? Or points, or a letter grade or a number or whatever. So I am curious how you are provided with feedback for what you do. Essentially, do you get evaluated now? I would assume it's not with a grade if you do get evaluated, but what does that look like? So Rachel, could I start with you on that?
Sure. So I think it varies a lot from company to company, but where I work, the main evaluation is maybe every 6 months your supervisor will actually meet with you or like write down, answer some questions about how you're doing, give you some feedback. But besides that, the feedback is just, something isn't working, there's a bug in the code, and, go fix that, or we think maybe we should do it a different way. Every once in a while, like you'll get some positive feedback, but for the most part, like you're only really told if something is wrong. So it's very different than high school.
Okay, interesting. Ian?
Yeah, I would say similar in coding. That's a very tangible mistake. The code crashes and then it doesn't work or whatever. So it's pretty similar for me. I actually am producing construction plans and I have to get them reviewed by, let's say, the city of Reno or the county or the state or the government, federal government. And the feedback is they cover it in red marks and then they give it back to you. It's almost like a test. But as far as and that's the most important feedback, the broader picture. You get feedback from your boss and your coworkers, but it should be all productive, and it should be helping you to progress and get better.
Okay, got it. Andrew?
Yeah, I would say like two main ways that we are provided feedback. One is like after a call, I work with another nurse or a paramedic partner while doing critical care transports. And a lot of times we'll debrief the call. So it's, it's not being evaluated necessarily by a boss, but we're taking it upon ourselves to look for ways to improve what we could have done better and also talk about what we did right. And it's also a good point of de-stressing. And then we'll do like yearly performance evaluations. A lot of it is like just a list of things and it's a self-evaluation, and then your direct supervisor will make comments on it. At previous places I've worked, there is like not necessarily a letter grade, but like a satisfactory, unsatisfactory,
Okay.
excelling to it. So that's kind of more in line with like high school getting a letter grade with it. But yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. So I love talking with you, and I could go on and listen to your stories as I find them to be so fascinating. But I'm going to go ahead and be asking you the last question right now because we are running out of time. So I'd like to hear what you would say to high school students who hear your stories, but they don't see a way. They don't see a path to your career for whatever reason. They just be it money, be it ability, skill set, whatever. What would you say? So Andrew, could I start with you? What would you say to a student who just doesn't see a path to the medical field, to nursing, to anything in your area?
Yeah, and I kind of, I think I got like two different answers to this. One answer is that there's a path in nursing for many different types of people. Just like Ian was saying about engineering, like there's a way, even if you're not super strong in the math and sciences, there's a way in nursing, and it's very diverse and flexible. There's a lot of different options. It's basically careers within a career. You could do transport nursing. Fire departments are now hiring nurses. You could work on the airplane, the helicopter, ambulance, in the hospital, doing critical care, working in psychiatry or labor and delivery. There's the computer side of things, which I don't know anything about, but like the informatics. You could teach, you could do school nursing. There's a lot of overseas opportunities and volunteer opportunities like Doctors Without Borders or the Red Cross. There's military options, and the list really does go on. And you can make changes anytime you want, basically, without totally starting over. And then the other the other answer I have, which I think is probably more what you're asking, but is that, you know, getting a degree, starting a career can be daunting. Becoming a nurse can be potentially daunting for someone just graduating high school or that's still in high school. But little steps can make a big difference. There's entry level stuff that you can do to kind of get experience within the field, like becoming an EMT or a CNA with only a single class, and that will give you experience and a job. And then I would just say, just put in the time on your prerequisite classes. Focus on the ones that that they look at for applications. Take them at a community college if that's, you know, what makes the most sense. There's nothing wrong with that. And I would often encourage people to do that for financial reasons, if that's something to consider. And then just plan ahead, talk with advisors. You can give them a call even now, and they'll be more than willing to talk with you. But if you want to put in the work, there's a way, and there's a ton of resources out there as far as financial. So you just got to go looking for them.
Thank you. Ian?
Yeah, everything Andrew said, I would say applies. You can always go to a JC. I know a lot of people, California is an expensive state. I know a lot of people that went to a JC for their first year in Nevada or Montana, got their residency, went through a couple JC years and paid in-state tuition, and then they went into the university, and it's significantly cheaper. And then you don't need to be strong in math and science or any specific subject. As long as you go in there and you're willing to learn, and if you are struggling in something, you can go talk to a teacher or professor, and you'll be able to work your way through it. But I really believe that anybody can get into my job or any job like mine. And like Andrew was saying, the civil engineering world's the same thing. There's structural, there's the land development side, there's water resources, environmental, and there's all the things. And if anybody's interested to hear about any of that stuff, or they want to talk to me, you can give my email out to anybody that asks for it.
Okay.
But a couple things that through high school that did help me going through is learning like spreadsheets and teaching yourself. I would say teaching yourself spreadsheets and maybe just like a really simple coding program helped a lot. And it brings a lot to the table when you go into school or into a new career or something.
I'm going to email you for help on spreadsheets because I struggle with those. They take me forever. I just need to practice more.
That's okay.
I'm learning.
You just gotta start from high school.
Right. Rachel.
So a lot of what Andrew and Ian said both apply here, so I won't go back over it. But one thing that I did want to add is that there are a lot of completely free resources out there for learning programming. You could go on YouTube and they have free tutorials to teach you anything that you will learn in college. That's not to say you shouldn't go to college, but you can also look into it before that as well. And then also the website Udemy has a bunch of courses on there. And if you catch them on a sale, they're only like $10 each. And again, they will teach you a lot of information. So
yeah, it's kind of good to figure out a little bit if it's something you like, right? And
exactly.
You can be playing with those kinds of things right now. I am so proud of all of you that, you know, we're kind of PUSD family, and I just honestly, I'm so impressed and just really am excited that you were able to spend this time with us tonight. And I know that our students are going to really, really benefit from having heard your stories. So thank you so much. And we look forward to hearing what's next in the lifelong learning journey for each of you.